If you try looking into modifications for your Challenger, there are likely a few which always get recommended, that being an exhaust, a tune, and some sort of intake. Of these three, an intake is likely the most affordable option for you, but these can still easily run you hundreds of dollars and require modifying your car to some degree. Thankfully for those of us on a budget, Mopar already makes a solution for this problem, and it isn't the $400 cold air intake, but rather the improved lower airbox from the Hellcat. Not only does this allow you to take advantage of the headlight intake just like the Hellcat, but depending on where you buy it from can cost you as little as $50 to $60 or even practically free if you own a 3D printer, but we'll get to that later. Another benefit of this option is it directly swaps with the pre-existing airbox with little to no modifications. Enough about the part itself though, let's get into how to do this swap for yourself. The process is extremely simple and should take you less than an hour. I'll be showing the swap on my 2019 V6 Challenger SXT, but the swap should be pretty similar on the GT, RT, and Scat Pack. The first step is to remove the upper part of the airbox, which is held in by 3 screws. You can take it completely off the car if you want, but I chose to disconnect the rubber hose on the back and fold it out of the way. Next, remove the air filter and set it off to the side before removing the remaining screw which holds the lower airbox to the car. Once that is removed, pull forward and up, which should remove it from the car. There's a small rubber piece which pops into a hole beneath the coolant tank, as well as another small rubber piece on the front bracket, which both need to be removed from the stock airbox and installed on the new one. The original also has a thin strip of foam along the bottom of the airbox and the back, which I thankfully had some left over from working on my 944 that worked perfectly. I'll leave a link below for that and where I bought my airbox. Now that we have the airbox prepped to reinstall, we have to discuss the other part required for this swap, that being the intake tube which connects the headlight intake to the box. The airbox I bought didn't come with one, and buying the tube itself will run you the same or more than the price I paid for that. There are some aftermarket options for the lower airbox and tube, but I wanted to stick with OEM parts if possible, and I have access to a 3D printer, so a bit of measuring and a few prototypes later, I have a tube which cost me a fraction of the cost of the ones available online. If you have access to a 3D printer, I'll leave the files for this linked below so you can print one for yourself, or if you don't, you can buy one from me through the link below. I also want to mention here that if you have a printer and are really on a budget, there is another design I'll link which allows you to modify your stock airbox to take advantage of the additional airflow through the headlight. As you can see from the photos, the Hellcat box has a more open design to it, which is likely superior to the stock airbox, but both options should provide more airflow. Back to the swap, you can remove the plastic cover above the headlight assembly for better access, and then reach into the inner headlight tube and push out the plastic piece inside. Depending on the intake tube you have, installation of the airbox may be a little different, but for my printed design, I found that I could attach it to the headlight assembly first and then slide in the airbox and rotate it downwards into place. Be sure that the rubber piece goes into the hole under the coolant tank. You should hear a slight squeaking sound as it slides in. After that, just make sure everything fits in place and that the bracket lines up with the bolt hole in the front before bolting it in place. The last step is to replace the air filter and screw the upper airbox back down, as well as replacing the plastic cover above the headlight. With that, we are done and you can enjoy your new Hellcat powered Challenger. I was pretty surprised by how much of a difference this made to the overall sound of the car. You can't really hear it in the side-by-side clips, but during driving, the exhaust note of my Borla ATAC exhaust noticeably deepened, and it got rid of the small amount of drone around 3000 RPM. might also be some additional intake noise at the higher RPMs or for the V8s, but I don't have any good way to test that. Either way, I definitely recommend this given how cheap it is, and from some of the videos I've seen discussing it, you can get a fairly similar improvement to what you'd get with some of the most expensive cold air intake kits while actually pulling in cold air. Since this uses OEM parts, it may also be an option for anyone who lives in a state that frowns upon intake mods. If this video helped you out, please drop a like below and feel free to drop any questions you might have in the comments and I'll do my best to help you. I'm also open to suggestions for future mods and I'll be making a video on the Borla exhaust I have soon as well, so be sure to subscribe if that interests you. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.